I am Jose the Legend. I have read the greatest of sports manga. I have cried when Takumura beat Brian Hawk. I basked in the beauty of the Hinata Quickset. The rebounding prowess of Sakuragi in Slam Dunk I have experienced. But today I will impart upon you a story that exceeds its predecessors. A story that will hoist you in the air and take you on a journey of passion, determination, tribulation, and joy. This story encapsulates the true essence of football. True football, not rubbish like Blue Lock. True football. I am Jose the Legend, and I'm here to tell you about the beautiful manga, The Legend of Ao Ashi, written by the master Ugo Kobayashi, narrated by my godson Jose Jr., aka JD Legend. Thank you, son. Come on. Thank you, Jose. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here today to tell you about the beauty of one of my favorite manga of all time, my favorite sports manga of all time, a sports manga that I believe sits at the very top. You see, I'm a bit of a connoisseur when it comes to sports manga. I watched Hajime no Ippo. I read Hajime no Ippo. Granted, I haven't gone all the way yet. I'm still in the thousands, but I've read Hajime no Ippo. I've watched Slam Dunk. I've read Haikyuu. I love Ace of Diamond. I've watched Yawamushi Pedal. I've had my fair share of sports manga. And when it comes to a series like Ao Ashi, when it comes to characters like Ashito, when it comes to characters like Tatsuya, Fukuda, Akutsu, Kurabayashi, when it comes to the sport itself, I like to believe I'm qualified to really take you guys on a journey of why Ao Ashi really is the best sports manga I've ever read and will be the best sports manga you've ever read. But to get started, let's talk about the sport itself, because there may be some of you that haven't really experienced the sport of football. I call it football, but many in America call it soccer. Now, most people think soccer is just a bunch of grown men running around kicking the ball and the game ends 1-0. And I say to people that say that, I call them Neanderthals. These are Neanderthals. We don't listen to them. Football is a sport of systems. It's a sport of beauty. It's a sport of passion. It is a sport of finesse, physicality, strength, grit, determination. There's too many factors about the sport itself that many people don't understand. And if you look at other series like Blue Lock, for example, which I graciously have chosen not to watch because I will rip it apart if I do, so let's not even get there. I've seen the clips. It's disgusting. But things like Blue Lock over exaggerate the essence of the sport and the purity of the sport. Where if you look at sports manga like Haikyuu, if you look at Hajime no Ippo, these are anime and manga that I would put at the level of Ao Ashi for its realism, for its ability to convey real world and real life examples and put it towards the manga. But Ao Ashi does it a little bit different. Ao Ashi takes historical references, it takes historical players, it takes historical facts and real life events and confounds upon it within its story, within its medium. One of the best things about Ao Ashi that I love is that as a real football fan, as a sports fan, and for all my football fans and sports fans out there, there's nothing more exciting than running into somebody that just gets it. Somebody that just understands, yes, this is what it means. Have you ever just loved a movie? Say you're a Star Wars fan. Say you're a One Piece fan. And imagine coming across somebody and you're a plucky Shanks fan. And someone you just meet and be like, you know what, man? Shanks really is the GOAT. He's the God King. And you're just like, you're right. He is. When you read Ao Ashi, it's very similar. So let me give you an example. When it comes to the tactical side of things, right? And this is something that I would say Haikyuu does very well. They'll talk about specific things within a volleyball match where you may not know about volleyball, and I didn't know about volleyball that well, but there's things that are happening when you're talking about quick sets, and you're talking about cuts, and you're talking about killing the ball, and you're talking about liberos and all that stuff. You're just like, wow, I never knew all of that. That's so fascinating, right? But you kind of stay there. With Ao Ashi, it brings in specific tactical implementation. For example, there is this portion in the manga where there's a high school match going on, and there's a reference made to a very, very specific match. And as you guys can see, I'm wearing a Liverpool jersey right now because this match is Liverpool versus Watford. Liverpool was on an unbeaten streak that was so unparalleled that it was about to break records everywhere. Everyone was terrified. But there was one team, Watford, that broke the mold. They beat them 3-0 at home for no reason whatsoever, but there's a reason and there's a way they did it. And in this manga, this author decided to use that one recent experience within his story to confound on a strategy that another team was using, very similar to Liverpool. And he literally said the words, "Play like Liverpool." Now, I don't know about y'all, but can you imagine you watching Slam Dunk and you see a coach saying, "Play like Ray Allen. Play the triangle offense like Phil Jackson." In Hajime no Ippo, where the coach is like, "Fight like Lennox Lewis. Fight like Muhammad Ali." And I know they may have a little bit of elements like that, but just say you're a huge boxing fan and you see somebody just reference something that you specifically watched, that you specifically grew up in, and it just hits you right here. But let's say you're not a soccer fan. Let's say you're not somebody that understands Liverpool, understands Watford. Think about that for a second. You just learned something new. Watford versus Liverpool. What happened there? This manga's got me interested because it's pretty far into the story. So if you get to that point, you're obviously going to be like, well, let me take a look. Let's look into that. And you see the history of everything that went on and you see what happened and you're just like, wow, this is actually a profound moment. I didn't know Liverpool played this way. I didn't know Watford played this way. What's happened is the manga has taken something that is real, applied it to its manga in a very interesting and impactful moment, a moment in a double page spread where you're just like, whoa, what does he mean by that? And then you see the effects of it, and then it ties it back to the real world. All of a sudden now you're immersed in the manga. All of a sudden now you're immersed in the world of soccer/football. And now you're like, well, what other things does it have? And the beauty of that in these real world applications of tactics is that it doesn't just go to real world examples, but then it gets to the theoretical level as well. We are talking about things like 6 lanes, and you're talking about triangles, you're talking about passing, the technique of a first touch. These are all small little intricacies within the story that allow you to see, one, the journey of the athlete. It allows you to see, okay, wait a minute. Soccer is a lot deeper than I thought. Soccer has a lot more elements to what I thought. And the beautiful thing about this manga is the way the mangaka draws it, the way he outlines the art, the bird's eye view he gives you. If you've ever read Kingdom and you're watching all the soldiers that are running around and you see how the tactics are moving or where the soldiers are going, you may not be a master of warfare, but you can clearly see this guy's going here and that guy's going there. Within this manga, Kobayashi takes you behind the curtain and allows you to understand tactics at a level you just didn't think you could possibly understand. Where now you're looking at Ashito standing here, or you're looking at Akutsu standing here, or you're looking at Kurabayashi. I'm saying these names, but I will talk about them later. Do not worry. But for the sake of that, he takes you on a journey where it's almost as if he's teaching you about the sport while telling you a beautiful story, all at the same time. So you're seeing as he's bringing a picture of, okay, I'm getting historical knowledge of the sport, I'm getting theoretical knowledge of the sport, but he's also telling a story of the characters learning and developing within this story. So you're getting to a point where you're like, whoa, this guy, the elements that he has within this manga are actually educating me while I'm enjoying the story. For me, as someone that knew this stuff already, but he broke it down in a way where now I could understand it at a deeper level, like, whoa. One, I've never even heard it called 6 lanes before. So I'm like, bro, this is like special stuff here, right? This is special. And the final point that I would like to add when it comes to the tactical side of things is just the beauty of the coaching aspect, where in Haikyuu, you have coaching elements where they're changing things between sets. When it comes to Hajime no Ippo, the coach, for the most part, he's giving advice. The coaching is still there, but I think because of the nature of the sport of soccer, you're getting a coach v coach battle. You're getting the coach's thoughts real time. You're seeing the small, intricate changes that he makes throughout the match. You're seeing the personality and the influence of the coach themselves. The coach is no longer just a side character. The coach becomes a main character and a main fixture within the entire story. So it's adding to the storytelling element. Now, within a whole match, as you're watching a match, so many different elements going on, so many things to pay attention attention to, as you see these coaches get these ideas, as you see these coaches reacting to another coach. And the best part is you get those little aura farm moments where the coach be standing there looking like this, auras around him, he's like, I just made a change, you don't even know what's about to happen until like the next 2 minutes later. It gets like that. So guys, when I'm telling you, like, the way they bring things up in Ao Ashi, especially from a tactical perspective and a historical perspective, is fantastic. But to emphasize more on the historics, think about how Slam Dunk will mention the greats, right? They mentioned Thomas Hearns and Tyson in Hajime no Ippo. Great moments, right? In Haikyuu, they mentioned like the brilliance of the Italian team in Brazil and Argentina and all these things like that. But with Ao Ashi, it's a little different. They mention real historical figures within the sport. It's like you're paying true homage to the sport when you're mentioning people like Xavi and Iniesta. You're mentioning people like Gabriel Batistuta. You're talking about real legends here, like real. If you watch the sport, you know these guys and you're like, oh, the ball knowledge on this dude is wild. The ball knowledge on this dude is crazy. Like, look at him, bro, he's goated. So one of the things that I love about it is that it takes you inside the mentality and the actual skill level of the very top pros, where they have this specific exercise Kobayashi shows, and he explains vision where you're passing. You see a pass from across the pitch. And what he does is he shows you this experiment that the star legendary Spanish player Xavi did, where they hooked up this device to him and they basically ran a simulation to see how much of the pitch he could actually see. And it showed that the things that he could see was actually almost superhuman. So you can see that the level of vision that these guys have is different. The things that I love about this is it uses real world examples, real world experiments to explain what is happening to specific players on the pitch when they have a special element. So for example, one of the biggest things that shows up here is the art of the playmaker. Where you're thinking about people like Ashito, you're thinking about Kurabayashi, these guys, they have a specific trait, which is vision. And there's another player that comes in, and I won't spoil, he also has a vision. And because of the groundwork that he set up by explaining to you how superhuman vision can be, and the small things that help you train vision, like you'd be in a restaurant and from your periphery you can be able to see as many people as you can, to show how your vision in the real world will actually match on the pitch as well. So it really just digs deeper into the skill set that people are acquiring here, and it just expands the world, all based on one deep historical reference that relates back to the sport. So if you're wondering why, oh, this guy just yapped for a minute, what is he saying? This is because what he is saying and what he's doing is he's teaching you about the sport. I'm re-emphasizing that, but he's also giving you something to go back to and to study and research, where you're like, wait a minute, who is this Xavi guy? I kind of want to see this in the real world. And if you go and research Xavi, if you go and research Iniesta, these players that I mentioned, and you see the passes they pull off and the way he explained it in the manga, and you see it in real life, you're like, oh my God, this is what it actually looks like? These guys are superhuman. Yes, because they are, and Kobayashi explained it perfectly. But there's one more element within this whole tactical historical side that I really wanted to mention. And it's race. And you might be saying race, I don't want to get into that messy topic. Now, here's one of the things that I loved about this manga. Most of these Japanese manga depict African Americans and black people in a unique, in an odd way. Whether you have, I think his name was Akagi, the guy with the flat top, the captain. His nickname was Gorilla, right? In Slam Dunk, right? Like, that's really racist. I'm sorry, it's just racist. Now, you know, it was the time. You even have Jason Uzuma in Hajime no Ippo, where everyone's like, oh my God, you're fighting a black guy, Ippo, you're cooked, he's black, look at his muscles. Oh, like it was like, they're not trying to be racist, but it's a little bit weird, right? So when it comes to how they deal with race, and now Haikyuu was pretty cool, right? You had the guy in I forgot the little high school team's name, with the twins. I'm sure Townsend will put him here. Really good black guy. He was great. Anyway, to get to the point, because I'm just yapping, Ao Ashi hit race in a way that I just didn't think I'd see in a sports manga, where you experience the story of Trapone Rufin and Sammy Rufin, where the two young black boys live in a foreign world and they're trying to make their way in the soccer world of Japan. But there is an experience that young Sammy goes through, and I will try not to spoil so much, that depicts, one, racism in a way that hurts. And I know that sounds scary, but it hurts. It hurts me as a black man to see racism depicted in such an accurate way, such an unfair way, and in a way that's so frustrating that little Sammy can only cry because he's so frustrated because there's nothing he could really do because he's cornered. If he reacts, he's wrong. But then if he takes it, then he's wrong. There's no right answer with the way he dealt with the racism. And for Trapone, the older brother, how he handles his perception, how he puts everything on the field despite the racism that he may be going through or what his brother went through, is powerful. So the fact that race, it could have such a strong arc within a story like this, within a manga in Japan where there's not many black people in general, to capture the element of racism that actually happens a lot within the sport, especially in places like Spain and Italy, is a big deal. It's huge. It was so good. I'll be honest with you, I read it while I was on a plane. I think I was flying somewhere, and I was crying. I was genuinely in tears because it was such a powerful moment. I was so frustrated for Sammy, and I was so proud of Trapone, and I was so happy to see this man cook. I mean, look at the aura on this man. Like, if you want your farming, you want your blue lock, you gonna get it with this man. But you're also gonna get deep character development. You're gonna get real moments, and that is what makes this manga so good, because you have unique, realistic things like this. But that's not all. There's so much more that we haven't even touched on, because there's specific characters within the story that take it to the next level. As you can see, I've changed my fit. Why? Because I'm getting within character, because the most important part of this entire series, this manga, really is its characters, especially its main character, but I won't get to him yet. I won't get to him yet, because there is 3 characters that I want to introduce you guys to that will set the stage for the main character. And the main one is the secondary driving force, which is Fukuda Tatsuya. Now, Fukuda Tatsuya is the coach of Tokyo Esperion. Tokyo Esperion is this famous youth academy within Japan that produces good players. But there is a meaning behind this academy. There is a vision, there is a purpose that Tatsuya is trying to get to. And he's trying to take on the world. He's trying to take on the footballing world and put Japan on the map, to let people know that there's a way for Japanese people to retain their values, to retain their culture, but also produce brilliant football players, and to send those players out into the world to represent Japan, to let them know, hey, Europe, come over here, we got hoopers too. Eventually that will trickle down. It'll create a culture of soccer players where they'll grow and become better performers, and eventually they'll show up in the World Cup. Maybe they might even win the World Cup. Now, I know I got a little far there with Tatsuya, but you have to understand this is his goal and that's his vision. And in order to achieve that, you have to start at the grassroots. And this is going to tie back into the historical reference and elements of the real game that I was talking to you about, because it shows you grassroots football. And it's all shown through the eyes and the guys and the instructions of Tatsuya, because Tatsuya has a very interesting backstory. He was a star soccer player that played in Spain. He was special, really good, hyper talented. For all my ball knowers out there, you're thinking of like elite players like Shinji Kagawa and Nagatomo, these Asian players that took the world by storm, and people are like, wow, man, this guy's good, we gotta sign him, he gotta go to Barcelona, like all of that stuff. And I won't spoil his backstory because it's good. It's literally one of the best portions of the manga. But through his backstory, you see his experience with Europe. You see his experience, the culture of Spain. And if you go back and you see his character early on and how it develops throughout and how you learn more about him, you learn the world that you experience, the scouting system, the economics, the youth philosophy itself, because you eventually run into places like Barcelona, where Barcelona have their own prestigious youth academy that is a conveyor belt for talent across the world, and how his experience in Barcelona and his experience with Tokyo, how those two collide and clash, where in Europe, it's a way of life. At 14, you're an adult. At 14, you have agents. At 14, you're basically a commodity. But in Japan, it's different. You go to high school. It's all about the team. You're still in high school events, so it's a completely different culture. But through the philosophy of Fukuda, through his man management skills, through his talent ID, you're going to see a man that is a lot deeper than what he looks like. He's basically like a little Jose Mourinho. It's like my godfather that we saw earlier, Jose the Legend. Now, this guy interacts with the MC in a way that's special, but I won't get to that until we get to the MC. We'll get there. But Tatsuya is a special character. He's someone that you should be paying attention to as you're reading this manga, because if you really want to understand the themes, the plot of this story, and what he's trying to convey, you're going to need to pay attention. Pay attention to his interactions with Ashito. Pay attention to his impact on Hana. Pay attention to his impact on Akutsu and Kurabayashi, the genius, as well. These guys are important, but Tatsuya is the main secondary driving force. Sorry. He's the secondary driving force of this entire manga. And it's just a beautiful thing because the aspects of youth philosophy that he implements, he challenges the world little by little. He gives people opportunities. He's intentionally developing people, giving people time to develop their skills to become who they're supposed to be. Because in Japan, you just kind of have that time. So the more I can give you an opportunity, the more you can grow, the more I can further my vision. So he helps himself by helping others. And it is beautiful to see how he impacts every single player that is under him, including the coaches, including the senior coach, because Esperion is also a professional team and this is the youth academy. So he's training players to go up to the senior team, perform for the senior team, and go up to Europe. So Tatsuya, legendary character. But there's other characters that he's impacted as well, and I'm going to get to Akutsu. Now, if you want to talk about just character writing in general, if you want to talk about characters that you just read and you're just like, I like this guy, I am invested in his success, look no further than Akutsu. Now, Akutsu, if you're talking about a real world application like we've been talking about throughout this entire video, you're thinking about your textbook, strong, commanding captain center back. You're thinking Nemanja Vidic, you're thinking Virgil van Dijk, you're thinking aura farming, brick wall, nobody's getting past me, shaved buzz head, edgy, angry, yeah, you're thinking that. But there's so much more to this character than meets the eye. Akutsu is a character that as you watch his journey, as you watch his childhood, as you watch what he's gone through, he is the perfect depiction of a football player that has a rough past. And I'm not talking regular rough, I'm talking rough. I'm talking hard childhood trauma, uses the sport to run away from the darkness of his childhood. And as you see how that affects him, as you see why he is the way he is, and you see how Tatsuya allows him to grow within the team and to grow into a role of leadership, so much so to the point where you're seeing, oh my God, this guy's actually better than I thought he was. Oh my God, this guy's amazing. And the funniest part is, you probably gonna hate him at the beginning. You probably gonna hate him at the beginning, but I guarantee you, after you see this panel, you're gonna be on your feet and you're gonna be like, I would die for this man. I would die for him. After you see the backstory that he goes through, you're gonna be like, I want my son to be just like him. Legend, GOAT, hero, all of it. That is what this man is. So when you read this manga, remember what I told you about Akutsu, because he's special. But there's another special baller out there, and it's his partner in crime. It is the star boy. It is the wonder kid. It is the genius. It is your stereotypical, I am better than everybody else on planet Earth. And it is Kurabayashi. This kid is your stereotypical number 10 playmaker. I got all the skills. I can see everything on the pitch. I can make any pass. I can dribble past any human being possible. Mesut Ozil, Lionel Messi. Think about any number 10. David Silva. For all the ball knowers out there, I'm just throwing out names, but y'all don't know Messi. So let's just throw Japanese Messi out there for the gimmick, right? This guy is special. This guy is your textbook genius. I'm only about the sport. I only want to succeed. I am the golden hope of Tokyo Esperion. This kid at 17 played for the senior team. This kid at 17, people in Europe want him. This kid is Tatsuya's main presentation to the world to say, look what we can produce. And watching this kid from childhood, from running into a rival within Argentina that made him realize, wait a minute, I'm special, but this kid is toxic. What's going on? And you see how their relationship develops, and you see his motivation. And as you're running into Akutsu and you're running into the main character Ashito and how he impacts Ashito, where Ashito's looking at this guy and he's like, how can I be like him? But he's so lost in his own world that he only cares about people that care about the sport just as much as him. So Kurabayashi is a very fascinating character because it takes you inside the world concept of a wonder kid, of a superstar, of someone at a very young age that has the world at his feet, but is solely focused on succeeding, because there's a lot of players like that. Kylian Mbappe, if you know him, he was like that at a young age. Messi, Lamine Yamal. You're thinking of all these teenage superstars that you hear about. For the Americans way back in the day, you remember Freddie Adu? Now, Freddie Adu didn't end up like this guy, but Freddie Adu probably had the same life. He was 15 years old, right? So these are the things I'm talking about. So you have an element of that as well. You have the hardened veteran captain who ends up being a superstar for the team. And then you have the legendary genius playmaker, Kurabayashi, that are all under the guidance of Fukuda Tatsuya. But there is one person, there is one character that knits everything together. There is one character that, as you follow his journey and he interacts with Akutsu, as he interacts with Kurabayashi, the Queen Hana, and Tatsuya, you're seeing the beauty of the journey of football. Main characters are normally what make the story. When it comes to a main character for a sports manga, you're thinking of Hinata Shoyo, you're thinking of My Son, Eiju Sawamura from Ace of Diamond, you're thinking of Ippo Makunochi, you're thinking of Sakuragi from Slam Dunk, right? You're thinking of these lovable, hardworking, maybe not super talented or maybe talented, but really raw characters at the beginning, and you see their journey to discovering their potential and discovering how good they can be. Now, with Haikyuu, it's beautiful, spoiler alert, because we get to see the main character go all the way to the pros. Here, it's a little different. Throughout this entire video, I have outlined the beauty of how Ao Ashi captures realistic elements of the sport and ties it to the manga, but also tells a beautiful story. It also shows you references of how things really work in the sport of soccer. But with Ashito, with Ao Ashito, this kid is special. With his journey, the journey is special. With every interaction he has, whether it be with Akutsu, whether it be with the coach, Fukuda, whether it be with Kurabayashi, whether it be with my daughter Hana, whether it be with Anri or Togashi, hilariously enough, his name is Togashi. But what Ashito does, his passion, his determination, his drive, his lovable ignorance, his childlike excitement to improve, sucks you in. It draws you in and makes you want to see how far this curly-haired kid goes. But to really paint the picture, the story starts off with a young local town star playing soccer in a small area called Ehime, I believe. And in that time, obviously, he's the star of the show. He's better than everybody. He's a forward. He wants to do this. He wants to do that. And the coach comes across him and sees him. And he's like, you know, kid, you got talent. You should try out for Aspirian. You should try out for this famous, prestigious youth academy in Tokyo and try your hand. What do you want to do? What do you want to be? He's like, I want to be a striker. I want to score goals and all this other stuff like that. And you're seeing a kid who is good-natured to a degree, but's got a little bit of arrogance because he's good, but he wants to improve, and he goes. And one of the beautiful things that you see is his relationship with his mother early on. Now, this mother, I affectionately call myself Ashito's stepfather because I would marry this woman in a heartbeat. This is a real woman. This is someone that is beautiful, takes care of her children, and lives alone and provides on her own. This woman is special and she deserves the world. So, you know, that's mine. Once you get to Aspirian and you're seeing, one, the skill gap, and this is where the journey of the series comes through Ashito, because you're seeing the skill gap earlier on. You're gone from local town hero to now everyone is the local town hero that's trying out to get to the B team of the youth team, right? So you're seeing the skill gap, and instantly everyone's like, oh my God, everyone is so much better than me and I thought I was good. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? And here comes this kid, full of pride, full of playful ignorance, and he's like, listen, I don't care, I'm gonna keep trying. And that's when he runs into Akutsu, where Akutsu's like, you're trash, buddy, you're not gonna make it. It's not gonna happen. But you're seeing as Ashito wills his way into succeeding. And as he succeeds, you're like, great, I made it. But he's only made it to level 1 and there's 200 levels. So now you're seeing the skill gap go even higher from when you're dealing with the B team, then you deal with the A team. And the A team is so intense, the way the author portrays it is that the practice is so suffocating. They don't even know what to do. They can barely breathe after one session. And then Ashito himself is experiencing how strong and how tough it is to actually make it in the regular youth team. We're talking about regular youth team and to play in the B team games. The skill level is extremely high. So you're getting to that point where the author is able to portray the levels of which it takes to even sniff the pros. Because all of these guys here, this isn't a high school we're talking about. This is a youth academy. They're all being trained in hopes of making it to the pros, and it's in Japan. So the chances of them actually making a real living to even get to where they want to be is slim to none. The chances are already low. Some of these guys just end up going to the workforce. Some of these guys, if they're lucky enough, they play for the A team and play for some bum J2 team and not a J League team. The margin for error is small and it's tiny. So to see this kid who is now realizing my technique is bad, my first touch is bad, everything that I thought was really good is really not that good. So he's faced with a decision where the coach himself, and this is where the big moment, this is one of the biggest panels, and I can't share it with you because it's a huge spoiler, but it takes you in a direction where Ashito is faced with a choice, a really difficult choice, saying, I need you to give up on this if you want to do this. It takes immense amount of humility to swallow your pride and take what he's saying, because he is essentially saying, everything that you thought you were, I want you to forget it. I want you to put yourself in the shoes where you have all these dreams, you think you have all these talent, you've had people for years telling you, oh my God, you're so good, you're amazing, you can do this. All for somebody to just tell you, hey, everything they said, it's not gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen. You're not gonna make it. Unless you do this, you're not making it here. The coach challenges him instantly. And you see the devastation because he just succeeded in making his way onto the lower levels of the team. And I'm like, this is it. Like, I can do something. And he's like, no, you have to forget everything. So after he faces that hard choice, now becomes the real battle, because you thought that was the real battle. And that's the crazy thing about this manga, is that it shows you from level 0 all the way, like the obstacles that you have to accomplish, where you're seeing these guys that are at the pros, you're seeing the obstacles they had to overcome. You're seeing that it's a dog-eat-dog world. You're seeing that the people that you trained with, the people that you thought were good, as the level goes higher, they're not good enough. They're not good enough. And it keeps getting higher and higher and higher. And with Ashito, the beautiful thing about it is that he believes he has talent, but his technique is so far behind because he didn't have the schooling. So what you're seeing is you're seeing the grind. You're seeing the training montage, but unlike Haikyuu, where you have the ball boy arc with Washijo, unlike Ippo, where you see him, well, now, actually, to be fair, Ippo does a very good job of showing you his slow progression and his grind. So I'll give Ippo this credit, and Ace of Diamond does this really well as well. But in Ao Ashi, you're seeing the day-to-day practice. You're seeing him watching film. You're seeing him talk to the players. You're seeing him go out of his way late at night to practice the same drill over and over again. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of times. You're seeing the nutrition, the workout menu that Hana is putting together for this man to achieve just to barely make it, to compete with these guys. And then now he's got to train with the A team, and now he's dealing with the A team, and all of a sudden the skill gap is high again, and he's in a position he's never found himself in before, and then he has to learn all over again. But at the same time, he's still dealing with, you know, senior players who are ready to make that step up. He's dealing with Kurabayashi and the fanfare. He's dealing with Akutsu and him doubting him, saying, bro, you're not ready for this. You're not built for this. He's dealing with Fukuda basically telling him over and over again, you need to be better here. I need you to be better here. I need you to be better here. But the beautiful thing about this character is that through every challenge that he faces it with determination and grit. But here's the thing that I love about Ashito the most. In most shonen, in most MCs, you're seeing someone that goes through a falling action and he's like, man, this is hard, but I have this unbreakable will, so I'm just going to accomplish it. And sometimes it feels real, sometimes it doesn't. With Ashito, there's actual despair. With Ashito, there's genuine difficulty. With Ashito, there is constant and consistent effort that does not work out, but he's still staying consistent. The thing about it is that you're seeing it day to day, week to week, month to month. You're seeing the small micro actions that he takes to steadily improve to the level, so much so that when everything culminates together, he finds a superpower right then and there. And once he finds his superpower, once he becomes Superman, he puts the cape on, all of a sudden it's like, hey man, this kid is raw, this kid got bad first touch. To be honest, he ain't even really that fast, but man, he's really good at that. He's super good at that. How did he do that? So once you get to that point, now you have Kurabayashi, you have Akutsu, you have the coach, you have the captain of the main team. You have them looking like, wow, get a little interesting. Hold on, like what's going on with him? Like what's going on? So as you're watching this young man grow and you're watching him discover the world, as he gets better, as he understands the skill gap, as he runs into beasts and behemoths and legendary Japanese youth players, where you're talking about Kitano and you're talking about Trapone Roof, and as I mentioned before, he's running into these actual Japanese under 21 superstars where he's like, wow, I didn't even know the world had guys this good. But you mean to tell me this is only Japan? And once you start getting to the aspect where Fukuda starts to see what's happening with him as he always saw, he starts imparting on Ashito like, hey, you want to be a pro, you want to do this, but do you really know how big this world is? Do you really know? Because after the whole Trapone arc, he experiences something he never experienced before, which is real fear of overwhelming talent and an overwhelming force. And in that moment, he realizes the world is big, and then he develops instantly to, wait a minute, there's a world of soccer out there that I don't know. And that's when the author takes us to the European side of things. That's when Ashito is now developed so much so to the place where he can get a taste of the world stage at a youth level, where now he's seeing how Barcelona runs things. He's seeing the economy, how 14, 15-year-olds, they have agents, they have guardians that follow them because they have to have media training early because they are now commodities, they are now investments. These big European organizations with scouting networks all over the world are investing in these kids like stocks. So they have to be adults at a very young age. So for them, it's not a fun-loving team sport like Japan where people are still going to high school and live their life. Their life is forfeit for the sport. So now Ashito gets to experience the real world of football, and it is like that in the real world. So through Ashito's eyes, you're learning about the sport, but you're learning about the culture, you're learning about the economy, you're learning about the ruthlessness of the sport, where you're seeing young talents in Barcelona where they normally were heralded as, you know, Spain's pride, but now they're just like, hey man, I don't know if we want to do this anymore. We should be buying stars from abroad. That's what we need to do. We don't need to worry about these young kids anymore. And how those kids are now fighting for their lives, and there's a certain level of intensity that they have. And Ashito is now exposed to that, where he's like, okay, I'm loving everything, but this is the next level. I'm excited. I want to play these guys. And that's one of the things you love about Ashito, is that despite everything that he goes through, the kid always rises to the challenge. And even if he gets knocked down first, he gets back up and says, wow, that was fun. Let's get better. And then there's this look in his eyes where he starts to lock in, where everyone's like, yo, this kid is toxic. This kid is crazy. This kid is scary. But to me, I'm like, look at my son. Look what he done did. My man came from the gutter, from the concrete. My man, he came from here, but now he up here. So now I'm like LeVar Ball in the stands, like, that's my boy right there. I'm yelling at the refs. I'm talking to women, like, yo, stay away from him. That's, yeah, but Hana, you can, that's your wife right there. For real, that's wifey. You know, that's wifey for him. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, you keep his eyes on the prize. But at the same time, you're just like, yo, this is my son right here. This is the GOAT. So, through Ashito, you experience one, Fukuda's dream. Ashito and Kurabayashi end up really being the conveyor belt for Fukuda's dream. But Ashito is the proof of concept for youth development with Japan, where Fukuda takes someone that's raw, has no idea what they have, and gives them time and guidance to develop to a commodity where now, even within the senior team of Tokyo Esperion, the coach is like, that's an interesting player. Let's give him a chance. And then Fukuda gives him an opportunity on the world stage and be like, I want you to do this. And now everybody gets to see him. And he proves his philosophy to the faces of Europe and Brazil and Russia and Spain and all kinds of other places that, hey, everything that I've done from chapter 1 till now is proved through this main character. So if you're going to read Ao Ashi, if you're going to experience this manga, one of the biggest sells I can give you guys is that the journey, the historical references, the characters, how everything ties together into one beautiful journey of this young hero, this young kid, this special kid with a special personality and his brilliant coach with a brilliant vision, all culminates into one message. Football is beautiful. Football is amazing. Football is a way of life that has taken the world by storm. When the World Cup happens, everyone's watching. When the Champions League happens, everyone's watching. And if you don't know why, you'll find out in this manga. Because this manga is football in manga form. I am Jose the Legend, and I want to say to everybody, thank you for watching video of the legend of football in manga form, Ao Ashi. My godson JD is a brilliant orator of the sport, and if you like this video, please watch, read Ao Ashi, and for more content on this channel, there will be a video coming up next on the beautiful masterpiece by Kentaro Miura, Berserk, where we talk about the golden age, arguably the greatest manga arc of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Jose the Legend, and we will see you on the next rendition of the Legend series. Good night and take care.